wanted to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we've met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
Multiverse has always been a family-friendly convention, but this year it is reflected in the programming in an official capacity. We have examples of that tonight, as first we welcome YA fantasy and horror author Marlena Frank, and then her sister Kelly Frank, who is also a horror author, artist, and reviewer. We also know that there is youth out there that needs our help, so we'll remind you of this year's charity, Lost and Found Youth. And finally, we introduce you to a brand new track as we go on a little adventure and turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spotlight on the Multiverse. I am Joe Compton. I'm so excited to be here with you all, and I have the Frank sisters with me, so everything's all right in the world now, and I'm so excited to talk to both Marlena and Kelly tonight. And Marlena, how I always start this show is I just love to give you the opportunity to to expand upon a little bit of an intro I gave you. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Marlena Frank. I write young adult fantasy, horror, dark fantasy, everything from standalone novels to anthologies, several book series under my belt at this point. I just have a wide range of things that I love to write, and lots of lengths that I like to write at too. So it's just a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And you're a I don't like to coin this term veteran, but you are a multiversian. You've been to Multiverse several times.
Oh yeah.
What keeps you coming back? What is it about Multiverse that's so different for you? I know you do a lot of cons, and the con circuit is your friend out there. So I'm curious why Multiverse is important to be on your rotation.
Well, I go to a lot of cons, and Multiverse just has a certain kind of vibe to it that, everyone is super friendly. You meet people from all different backgrounds and stripes, and you don't really get that kind of embrace of people being so different at other conventions. But it is very clear at Multiverse how accepted everyone is, and I really love that feeling. The panels are always so much fun too. We go in there and, I'll be like, okay, this is a cool horror panel or whatever. And we end up going into all sorts of really interesting topics as we're going through there. So, and not only that, but like the art show too is a lot of fun. And then the whole like book fair as well. That's a lot of fun too. There's just so many great experiences that I've had at Multiverse. I know there's one where, you get to read your story out loud and people act out the parts. Yeah, that one is so much fun.
Have you participated in Storytime already?
Yes. Oh. I did one last year. I think it was last year. Gosh, my ears are running together. But I did one last year, and it was about zombies. It was great.
That's awesome. Hello, Anita. Hello, Jessica. Nice to see you both. Yeah. I love that event is something to behold for sure. It's just one of those fun things that we get to let our hair down a little bit with that one as well. So,
yeah, those are fantastic. That Alien Autopsy, I got to do that one as well last year. Nice. I got to be a watcher for that one. I was like, oh man, this is amazing. There's like so many like hidden gems in the panels like that you don't know until you just slide in last minute, and you're like, okay, let's see what this is about. Oh my gosh. I have tears in my eyes. I'm laughing so hard.
Yeah, I haven't done the alien autopsy yet because Friday night, it's like usually there was a Friday night or Saturday night, and there's so, like you said, there's just so much.
Yeah.
I was touristing a lot. I was going between room after room after room,
Yeah.
kind of figuring out, what I wanted to stay at, and then I got stuck into the monster. I got stuck into the Monster Mash, and that was it. I was there, but that happens, right? So
Exactly.
So you got a preliminary schedule for what you're doing this year. Is there anything you're really, really excited about?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be on a generative AI panel, which will be a lot of fun.
Ooh.
I get to talk about, I think there's another one on like writing women characters. And it's just, there's so many good, not only craft pieces that I'll be able to talk on. I'm also doing one, I believe, on a divination with tea and tarot, that kind of stuff too. I just love that there's so much variety,
Yeah, that is one of the most talked about meetups in Multiverse. That particular meetup, and it's like one of those hidden gems, like you were just talking about. That is when people go, they're just blown away by how exciting that is. So
it's so cool, and people get to go there. They've never like dealt with that, but then they learn how to use it. And it's just a lot of fun. Like my sister and I help each other out. So when she's on a panel and I can attend, I get to attend and get to watch her work too. So it's just great.
Jessica says she's on the women character panel with you. So
yay! We'll have a good time with that.
I'm definitely putting that on my schedule now. I'm excited for that. I'll be in the audience for that one. That'll be cool. I love that's the cool thing is like I think there's one of the things I was talking to Vanessa about the last episode was there's just so many opportunities to learn so many different things that you don't get to learn at conventions typically. I mean, typically conventions have these canned, events, and you go to the same one over and over again. It kind of wears welcome out a little bit. But Multiverse seems to adjust and change up, and there's always something that I think if you're there for any reason, you can go to another panel and learn from. And I think that's the thing about Multiverse.
You can learn stuff, and like I got to use a Ouija board for the first time last time I was there. And then afterwards, we all had like great conversations about supernatural things that had happened in our lives or something like that, like ghost things and stuff. And it was like that was a lot of fun. But I wouldn't have felt so connected to those people if we hadn't all had that panel that we all went to and took part in. And it was one of those late night till like 10 or 11 o'clock panels, and we didn't want to leave. I had to get up early the next day. I was like, no, I want to stay here and talk to these people. This is amazing. It's like a very, it's like a family that you gain, especially if you go every year, and you really kind of broaden your experiences with panels and various activities and stuff. And so you get to know everybody, and you get to see people slowly becoming, like I've talked to people there my first years there who were just trying to become authors, and now they're like getting published and stuff like that too. So I can see like their growth over time. It's so fantastic. It's wonderful.
I love that. Jesse says it's way too much ADHD on staff to repeat our panels too often. I mean, I think there's a bit of a design behind that too, Jesse. But yeah, I appreciate that for sure. But, no, I mean, seriously though, I mean, it is fascinating when you get into something like that, and how much you just get embraced and swept up in it. And and we had one person there who was like, hey, I'm not, I don't believe in this stuff, but I'm working on a research paper about this. So I'm curious about like you guys are, you're like, and we were like, yeah, sure, let's talk about this. Like you just don't know who you're going to find. And he was like, I came here because my wife was coming here, and I thought I would just be completely, not involved in this. And now I'm involved in it, and now I'm curious about stuff. It's just cool. I just really love that. It's surprises like that, but they're fun surprises, Okay, so what question did you ask the Ouija board? Am I allowed to ask you that? Is that too secretive?
No, we were just asking if there were ghosts in the building, and it was like next to a busy road, so we couldn't get anything that was useful. So I was like, okay. And it just stopped talking to us after a little bit. We're like, all right, let's move on. But there was one lady who had like a beautiful collection of Ouija boards that she brought. God, I can't remember her name right now, but she had a beautiful collection that she brought that are just ornamental pieces and stuff too. It was just really cool. It's just really cool, really neat stuff.
So you cover a couple genres. So are you biding your time between horror and fantasy a little bit? Do you have both tracks on your schedule?
So I typically when I'm writing, I go back and forth because I I'll dive into fantasy for a while, then I'll want something darker, and so I go to horror. Then I'm like, okay, I need something lighter than this. So with my writing, that's how I tend to do stuff.
But are you on both panel? Are you on both tracks this year?
I am on both tracks. I believe I have a horror track panel. I do not remember.
That's awesome. So are you also selling? Are you guys selling at the?
Yeah, we're going to have vendor tables in the vendor hall. So we'll be over there. We like to be side by side, and Multiverse is always great about that, which helps us because when my sister's off at panels, I can cover her table and vice versa. So it's just really helpful because she's on a ton of panels this year too. So, we're always running, and having someone that can kind of watch things and keep an eye out for stuff is always helpful. Especially when you're doing panels at conventions, because you can get wrapped up in stuff so easily.
Sure. And I'm going to talk to her about this, but she's also got some art being displayed at the art show this year, right?
Yes, yes. She's been working on some beautiful pieces too. I love it because I get behind the scenes peeks. That stuff that she's bringing. I'm like, ooh, that's lovely. Ooh, I really like that's gonna look really pretty up there.
Are you secretly hoping that nobody bids on certain pieces so that you can take them
Sometimes I do that. Yeah, I've been like, wow, Kelly, it looks like this art piece hasn't sold yet. How much? Because this would look really nice in my room. That goes though. She'll be like, oh yeah, sure, that's fine.
You get the family discount, or do you
have stock anymore? So.
Do you get the family discount, or does she make you pay the full price for it?
She doesn't make me, but I offer to pay the full price because I'm like, no, girl, just because I'm family doesn't mean I get a discount. That's how that works. You should be paid what your art is worth.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, time and everything, you gotta price that properly. That's one of the interesting things about making art that I think.
Yeah, and it's all subjective about how people enjoy art, but you still have to price it properly, and that's rough. That's that's an ongoing procedure.
Yeah, I mean, you put a lot of time and effort and thought into it, right? So that's certainly key. Jesse says, respect, pay the artist what they're worth. Love it.
Right? You know what's up.
Being in Georgia, do you have you been in the Peach Tree City area before? Have you been around there?
Yeah, I've been over there. I think I went there for the night market years back. It was an outdoor show. They had like a concert and stuff. We got horribly rained on in the process. So as one of our last outdoor shows, I was like, no, I don't want paintings and art and books getting damaged with rain. It's not. It was a really cool group of people, though. They were really neat people out there too. So I'm looking forward to being back in the area again.
That's awesome. Yeah, you were telling me off camera that it says really doesn't make a difference for you driving wise or the ability wise, but I got to imagine that you're pretty excited about the bigger spaces and everything like that.
I am. I've seen just a few pictures, not much, but I'm excited to see like more spaces for things. I know, like in the meat room where they had like the divinity and tarot and stuff like that. That one was always really tough because it was always. But I liked the close quarters on one hand, but it was also like. There's a lot of people in there sometimes because they were really a lot of people wanting to be part of things and stuff. So I'll be looking forward to having more space for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And to enhance that for you, I'm not allowed to tell you exactly what's Gigi's plan, but Gigi has some plans for that particular aspect of the area that she's going to be in.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
Really like
I love it.
I've been sworn to secrecy, but there's a couple things in the hotel that when I toured it, Vanessa was showing me that Gigi has plans for, and I was like, oh yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be
Yay! I'm excited. I can't wait to see it all in person. I'm looking forward to seeing the new venue and how it's all put up. It's great.
Jesse says everyone was forgiving about the available space as we outgrew the last venue.
Yeah. Well, you love the place. You know what I mean? You're not gonna be like, oh well, it's so cramped in here. It's like, no, it's okay. We love Multiverse. We will deal with it if we have to. We love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all excited, but yeah, we'll deal with it.
Yes.
So what phase are you in right now? You mentioned that you kind of go in phases. Are you in more of a horror phase, or are you more of a fantasy phase at this point?
I'm more like more on the fantasy side. I'm doing like a dark fantasy. So it's got monsters in it, but it's also basically it's situated on a lighthouse. So that's what I'm kind of writing right now is more of a really gothic imagery heavy piece with that. It's going to be a young adult dark fantasy book, standalone book. That's what I'm writing right now, very slowly, but it is coming along.
Have you seen Robert Eggers' film The Lighthouse?
No, I want to. It's on my to watch list because that one looks right up my alley.
Yeah, I think. Well, if that's what you're writing, I think you'll be real excited.
Exactly. I need to. I need to.
You're done, but yeah.
Yes.
Little ideas sprinkle in your head. You know how that goes when you
exactly.
You can have then you get the creative juices flowing, and then you go, oh, maybe I'm getting too close to what I just watched.
I feel that too. So I have to put boundaries up and be like, okay, how close is this? Oh, no. Okay, put that on hold for a little bit.
But once you're done, I would highly recommend it. I think you'll really get a kick out of that because
that looks really like enjoyable. That was actually one of the things that when it came out, I was like, "Ooh, a lighthouse! That's a good idea." And then we were traveling up in the Canada area, and we got to go like to one of the lighthouses up there and stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, this is where I'm going next."
Were you in what part of Canada? Was it Nova Scotia area?
Nova Scotia area, yeah.
That's where Anita's from. Anita's in the chat.
Oh, that's awesome! It's a beautiful area up there. I went out to Peggy's Cove area. Oh, that area is just so picture. It doesn't look real. It's too pretty. It doesn't look real.
What did you learn about lighthouses that fascinated you? What was it about a lighthouse that?
I think like kind of the loneliness of it. Sometimes you'll have lighthouses out in the middle of nowhere and like a little scrap of rock, and someone used to have to go out there and live there for like a year or two at a time, and it's such a fascinating, there's a lot of history and it's all really detailed, history about it because they were just taking notes and diary and entries and stuff like that while they were manning those lighthouses. So it's fascinating. And a lot of them are electric, but you still have some that are man-powered today, which is really interesting. I mean, I just learned stupid facts about lighthouses. I'm sorry.
That is a key point in the Eggers movie about the man being man powered. But
yeah.
Anita says, "Oh yeah, Peggy's Cove is our most famous lighthouse."
Yes, it's beautiful, just gorgeous out there. Oh my gosh.
I also think with lighthouses too, there's an interesting cadence of the waves crashing into the rocks and things of that nature that kind of lend itself to a horrific.
Yeah, and when you look into the history of how they had to like paint those themselves on a regular basis, and so you're kind of fighting an endless battle with the ocean, stripping away the paint, and yet you have to still go out there and risk your life to repaint it and stuff because it has to be visible, and it's just like, dang, man, rough job right there.
Jessica says lighthouses are cool. Even Georgia has lighthouses.
Yes, I saw that one. There's one down in Tybee, but I didn't get to go inside that one. But it looks really pretty.
Did you got to go inside a few of them in Nova Scotia?
In Nova Scotia, no. I at least could go over there because they have them all closed off. Yeah, they're really pretty from the outside. But I have seen the one over in Tybee too.
I would imagine because of their isolation that they're very difficult to get into. So that's probably they're probably for safety reasons. Not
no stairs. It's probably a hazard.
Yeah, they're a little precarious at best. I would.
Yeah.
So basing it around there, do you have some magic systems and stuff like that going on because it's fantasy, or is it more of like an urban fantasy kind of idea?
This is more of a surreal fantasy, like weird fantasy is what it, like weird monster fantasy. So there's something lurking on the shoreline that you don't find out about until farther into the story. And you're trying to figure out, one person has amnesia and doesn't really remember much before the lighthouse. So it's, you're unraveling that mystery and you're trying to figure out what this creature is. And it's just, I've got a whole idea for the ending as well. So it's going to be really fun to kind of, have fun with the imagery and all of those nice sensory kind of aesthetics with it too, leading up to that big reveal. So yeah.
Is this a one-off, or are you doing a series with it?
This one's going to be a one-off. I do have, I'm always working on series. My latest book release, The Man Who Dealt in Death, is a book one of my weird Western with a werewolf detective who has a vampire partner, and they're butting heads all the time. That one's going to be a series. That one's kind of written like a pulpy comic book series. So it's more like every book's going to be its own standalone kind of thing. So yeah.
You just made me remember that I forgot to do something, which is grab your book cover, because this thing is absolutely stunning. I'm going to grab it real
Thank
quick.
you. I got that from JB Arts. They did a beautiful job. I commissioned them, gave them some ideas of what I wanted, and they did such a fantastic job with that. It's such a strange book to try to get a cover for. So I knew I was going to have to commission something, because I was like, I'm not going to find this anywhere. It's like
there it is, everybody. Look at that thing. That is just unbelievable. I love the colors in it.
Yes. And it really gets across like, that weird Western kind of vibe with the cigarette and the cowboy hat and all that stuff. So it's really nice. It's really nice.
I'm a big font guy. I have a weird thing about fonts, and I love the Man in Death font. I think that's really amazing. So
yeah, and that one's definitely a horror weird Western. There's some really dark elements in that book. It's a fun book. It's adventure, but it's got some really dark elements to it too.
So it's part of. Is it the middle of the series? The beginning?
It's book one. It's the official book one of the series. I do have a prequel that was a novella. It's ebook only, Night Feeders, that came out back in 2012. Actually, that's how long I've been trying to get this next book out. But yeah, that one's kind of like a little short one shot with the main character in it. So kind of get a taste of what the world is like with that, and then dive fully into it with The Man Who Dealt in Death.
God, that's so awesome. Catching up on the chat, Liam says many of them are automated now.
Yeah.
And Jessica says she's been in the one in St. Simmons. The one at TB is Cockspur.
Oh, it's not open. Yeah.
And Jessica says, awesome cover.
Thank you.
And this is amazing. Yeah. It really
Thank
is.
you.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. And available at Multiverse, I assume.
It will be. Yeah, it comes out on the 24th of this month. So I'll be having copies there, and I'll be doing being over at the book fair as well. So hopefully get my hardbacks in just in time.
I was just going to ask you. I was just going to, because that was a hardback cover that I just pulled off. So
Yep. And they're beautiful too. I sold out of the ones this last weekend. I was at the a convention this last weekend. I sold out of the last hardback, and I was like, well, time to order more.
That's awesome. And then as far as your horror goes, what's the last thing you do with horror?
What is the last thing I do?
Yeah. What's the last book you wrote in horror?
That would be The Man Who Dealt in Death.
Okay.
That's definitely horror. And the second book in that series I've gotten mostly written too. That one's going to be really dark as well. So that whole series it's fun. It's an adventure, but be ready for horror elements, because it does have that too. Whereas my Lighthouse book is more dark fantasy. It never gets as gruesome as that, in my opinion. I try to keep it lighter. So.
Is that truly YA, that one, or is it
one I'm working on right now? Is yes, that's going to be young adults. So it's both teens dealing with the horrible situation on a lighthouse. So yes. So yeah, that one's going to be fun too. That's like I said, it's dark fantasy with mystery elements and stuff like that too. And lots of gothic imagery and stuff. So yeah.
Is it fun to walk in that space a little bit, the young adult space for you? Or do you enjoy that, or are you more into like staying in the adult space for the most
I
part?
like kind of straddling between the two areas.
Mm.
I don't know. There's something really fun about writing young adult because you do get a different kind of perspective. Sometimes, especially when you're writing a novel with an adult protagonist, you feel like they have to kind of be somewhat of an expert in some kind of field because
Mm.
they're an adult here. But with young adults, they typically haven't ever been away from their parents for some of the stories I've written, or they've been really sheltered, or, and they really get to kind of learn about the world as you're explaining it to your readers. So they're a good stand-in for that. So I really enjoy writing young adult with that too. And, they make a lot of mistakes. So a lot of fun to play with too. Not like your adult characters don't make mistakes, but with young adults, you're a bit more forgiving with that. You're like, it's okay. They're teenagers, they're really, they shouldn't even be in this situation. That's okay. But with adult characters, you might be more like, that's kind of dumb. Why did they not know how to do that? So it's kind of fun to play with that, I think, in books. That's why I can never quite get away from YA, because it's a lot of fun to kind of play in that playground some with figuring that out. So and you get like different romantic expectations as well with that than you necessarily do with a lot of adult books, which is fun to play with too. So yeah, just different perspectives, at least in my books.
Fantasy typically is not a one-off exercise, so it's kind of fascinating that you're doing it in a one-off space. Are you finding challenges with that, or do you feel like that's pretty much just what the story called for? That's how you're going to write it.
Yeah, for this story particularly, I'm seeing that that's kind of how this story is going.
Mm-hmm.
And, once I finish it, I'll decide if I want to write any more books in this or not. I did that with one of my other novels, which was started out as a novella, She-Wolf of Kanta. And I had that out and people loved it so much. They're like, where's book 2?
Yeah.
I want another book in this. And I was like, for years, I was like, no, it's not going to, that's the end of the story. And I was like, well, I could actually see it going somewhere. And now it's a 5-book series. Because that's if I think about it long enough, I can find a way to continue the story. So that's kind of the writer's curse, is you can always continue the story. It may not go in a direction that's a happy direction, but it can always be continued.
And the problem is that when you see the dollar signs, when you see people are buying it and sell it, and you're selling it, you're like, yeah, maybe I should consider.
Well, and that's tough because I try not to compromise that for the dollar amount or something. Because if it's a standalone and I'm like, no, this really could, but that literally ended on like a cliffhanger piece. And I'm like, okay, where could this go? You know what I mean? And, she had just that character had just gotten into like a new location, and she's like, okay, I'm going to step forward into this darker path than what I was in. And, accept this weird mad scientist dude being a mentor. So yeah, I could see where it would go somewhere else with that. But, for my standalone pieces, like I've had another novel that's a YA dark fantasy, The Seeking. That one's a standalone, and I really can't see that, being expanded out in any way. So yeah, it really depends on the storyline, I think. So
I love that you're sticking to your convictions on that, because that I think artists do get a little swept away in that oftentimes, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to put your foot down and be like, no, this really shouldn't continue. This is a completed story. This is good. Just leave it. It's okay.
And it's okay to it's okay to read a stand-up. It's standalone. It's fine.
Yeah.
Enjoy it for what it is.
And I think it's actually a great way for people to kind of learn about your writing, so they don't have to buy my 5-book series to learn about my writing. They can pick up a standalone and be like, okay, let's see if this is any good before I go, invest in that 5-book series or that trilogy or whatever. So it's just kind of a nicer way of being like, here's a sample of the kind of stuff that I like to write. And if you like this, you might like the other stuff. You know what I mean? So it's nice because it's a complete meal.
I love that. Is there a different mindset for you in writing standalones? Are you pretty rigid in how you set it up, or because with series you get a little bit more room because you can play around a little bit more, but do you feel like a standalone you're pretty set in how you write it? Is it a different writing experience for you than writing a series?
Yes, definitely. With a standalone, you typically can't have tons of side plot happening. which can be good if you have a very minimal like set of characters that you're working with. But if you have like, I've got my Stolen series that basically has 5 main characters in it, and you kind of want to develop a lot of them throughout the series. If that was a standalone, I'd have to choose 1 or 2 and be like, that's it. These are the only people getting developed. But for 5 characters, I can go into a lot more than that in a series than I could otherwise. So, you know, with a larger series, you tend to have a larger cast of characters, not just for your side plots, but also because that's a lot more characters that you can flesh out and really give some drama and some terrible things happen to. You know, you're a writer, have terrible things happen to them, and get to, you know, have that kind of emotional reaction with that, but you're still following your protagonist doing stuff too. So
yeah. Liam says, "Not everything has to be an epic saga." I agree.
Exactly. We love our epic sagas, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's something to be said for that, but there's also something to be said for standalones. I want to champion that more. I think, especially in fantasy, because I feel like with fantasy, we just are so overwhelmed with information a lot of times that I think that gets lost in the shuffle if you're trying to do a 7 or 8 book series. You just decide, well, I can put that off to the side till book 2 or book 3, and with the standalone, it's kind of like the difference between writing a short story and a novel, right, or a novella. You know, you realize that you have to get to the point a lot fast. I think for writers, it's a good exercise too.
Yeah, and you know, I love long series, but man, sometimes you get farther into a series and you're like, this is kind of losing me on stuff, or this has kind of gotten, this should have ended 2 books ago. You know what I mean? And that's you feel rough as a reader because you're like, ooh, but you're also just like, you know, I also understand that that's how a lot of especially indie authors make their funds, is through series, because it's so hard to get that first read in. And then like you can have first in series free. Like I've got a couple of those on ebooks to help get people actually picking up my books to read, because it's so, you know, the market is so full of so many different books and so many different authors but that's still a tried and true method. And, you know, so I understand the value of series, but I do agree that not everything should be a series. And we really just having some standalones in there is probably good for everybody involved occasionally.
I was going to invoke something else, Daniel, but Daniel says, "Are we talking about Robert Jordan now?" I was gonna slight the Herbert family a little bit too.
Right.
June went on a little too many books, I think.
But you know, and I get why people do that still, especially for some of the fantasy authors that are like, no, I want to finish explaining my world and I want to continue with all this. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair, but maybe this should have been a spin-off series, or maybe this should be like a related series or something, and just have this storyline come to an end and then you can continue in this other one. You know what I mean? So
yeah, which kind of what Dune does. Dune does that in a lot of ways, but yeah, it's like, but you cared so much about the first initial series, right? And that's the hard part about doing something like that. I think for authors, we also get swept away in the idea that a character gets beloved by an audience, and we want to write their story a little bit more because maybe they weren't as prominent, and we kind of lose track of the original story in a lot.
Yeah. I also think of characters like Sherlock Holmes getting killed off because Arthur Conan Doyle was like, I'm so tired of writing Sherlock Holmes stories. And then the fans like uproared, and he was like, okay, he's not really good. You know, like, it's so funny how that works though. Like that's how far back it goes with like the history of the readers demanding, you know. It's so cool though that that's a thing, but it's also like, he was tired. He probably needed a break from Sherlock for a while.
Yeah, 16 books on Thomas come. Yeah, see.
Yep.
And there's so many examples you can cite about that, but for sure. Well, Marlene, it was so awesome to get to talk to you and sit down and chat, and I look forward to talking to your sister next. But
yes,
it's so awesome. I look forward to seeing you in October and talking to you some more, and tell everybody where they can find all of your work and information about yourself so that those who aren't going to be at Multiverse can check it out.
Absolutely. You can find all of my work at marlenafrank.com. I've got a store on there. I'm also wide across all venues. So just choose your favorite, ebook reading website, basically. I've got a few books that are on Audible only for right now. I'm trying to get up to the point of having them be wide, audiobooks. That takes some time, though. But yeah, you can find me on my website for all of my books and all of my weird storylines.
Awesome. Well, everybody go check out Marlena's stuff, and we'll be back in just a minute with Kelly Frank. And for now, something very important that we all do as family, and that's support one another. And this is a great charity that Multiverse is putting on this year with Lost and Found Youth. And here's an opportunity to learn a little bit more about them and celebrate them and help them out. So we'll do that, and then we'll be back with Kelly. All right, we're back, everybody, and look, I have Kelly Frank with me. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Hi.
All right. Hi, nice to see you.
Hi, Joe. Nice to see you too.
So Jesse says we need donations of cool items to the charity auction benefiting Lost and Found Youth, everybody. So definitely check that out. But I'm here with Kelly Frank. And Kelly, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So my name is Kelly Frank. I also am Morbid Smile Art. So I'm always, if you Google Morbid Smile Art, you'll find me. Makes it easier because I have a very common name. I write horror, short stories primarily. I am working on a novel, and I am also an artist. I am a cat mom. We just adopted 2 kitties recently, and we just moved. So I am currently recording in the spare bedroom at my parents' house, which is a little wild.
That's awesome.
Doing great.
Yeah, there is. I mean, the art is just spectacular from what I've seen on your website.
Thank you so much.
What made you decide to do the art show this year? What was it that why you wanted to take on the art show?
Oh, I do the art show every year. I like being able to have an excuse to hang out with my fellow artists, and it also gives me like motivation to like make some new stuff every year that like, okay, what can I do this year that's going to be different? And it's just it's a fun like deadline, and I also like to see if I can surprise my fellow multiversians with something cool and new. So Last year I had dinosaurs with ginkgo that I debuted over there, which was really cute.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. They were pretty. I was really proud of those. And this year, now that I finally have like a studio space, because we finally got moved in to our new house, I am able to make more stuff and make and bigger things because it's hard to do larger scale pieces when you're in on the move a lot. So yeah.
Are you excited about the expansion of space that you all are getting for the art show
Oh
this year?
God, I'm so excited. I've talked with Vanessa and I've talked with Gigi and Holly, and everyone's so excited. And I'm just like, yes. Because I know like I'm on the meat track. I do tarot readings, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be running a panel this year on teaching people how to make their own magical sigils.
Oh, cool.
So it'll be fun. And last year we did Ouija board work, which was fun. And it's always a packed house, and it's going to be nice to see, especially the meat room. I think that room just really, Marlena was saying it, but like I feel like that room is always just like in this tiny little area.
It
And it's
is,
hard to
yeah.
meet people when you're on top of them. So I think it's going to be a lot nicer. I don't want to reveal anything, but Gigi has some surprises. So it's
Yeah,
gonna be
I
fun.
heard the same things. I was just telling
We're like,
Marlena I didn't want to say anything because I I had heard that. So,
but she doesn't know anything. So
but yeah, it's gonna be really cool.
Mhm.
I was when Vanessa was telling me about a little bit about some of the things that they were talking about. That's pretty
Mhm.
amazing. So
Yeah, I'm super psyched for it. And honestly, like I think it's going to be like better not just for like the people in the back and the people who are like vending and the art people and everything. It's also going to be great for attendees because they're not going to have to feel like they're like going into rooms. There were a lot of times where people would go in and they wouldn't have enough seating, or
yeah,
they wouldn't be able to find stuff. There was that one room that you had to go through the restaurant to get to,
yeah,
just stuff like that. And it's like, I feel like
yeah,
this new space is going to be so much nicer. So yeah,
yeah.
it's gonna be great for everybody.
We all felt Mason's pain in that in that
Good,
programming.
yeah. Well, at the last hotel, it was wild because we try to stay on site. It's drivable for us, but we just like I'll stay up late with people at the con. So
Yes,
I just don't want to have to do the drive, you know what I mean?
of course, yeah.
So the last year we stayed, and it was like you could tell the hotel was like cutting back on things, even though it was trying to like still upcharge people. We stayed in a room and then got sick later, and I was just like, is it? What is it? So it's just, I don't know. I think they had like, the room smelled a little like mold. I was just like, what is up? So I'm so glad we're moving. Um, just a million things. I did not like the way that they treated staff and the volunteers and everybody. So yeah, sorry. Soapbox down.
Yeah, but it's all in the past. So
Yes,
we're moving
yes.
forward, and it's real
That is the
exciting.
truth, and it's going to be a good spot. So
I are you doing any art panels this year? Are you on any of the art track
yeah, I'm
panels?
going to be doing the charity art jam this year.
Oh yeah, nice.
So I did that last year, and I was like, please put me on this, please put me on this, and they did, and I was just like, yosh. So I'm excited for that. Last year I brought my sketchbook and my typical stuff because I'd never done it before, and I was like, well, let's see what it is. And folks were walking in with like big old sets, and I was like, I feel like I came with less than I could have. So this year I'm gonna roll in with stuff too and make a
Oh,
whole bunch
nice.
of cool stuff. So I'm excited.
Do you have a plan? Already have a game plan of what you're going to do, or are you just going to let the moment hit you?
I usually just let the moment hit me.
Mm.
I don't know what the prompt is. So
Oh, that's right.
basically,
Yeah,
but
they
I'm
give
gonna
you a
bring a lot of
prompt.
different supplies.
Yeah,
And I think it was interesting because last year the prompt was supernatural creatures, and
yeah.
so I did a banshee, And it was a lot of fun to do that, and I got some nice shading using like a blue pencil with like a white gel pen over it and stuff, and got some good like ghostly coloration with it, and I was really proud of it. um and that was part of the charity jam, so I'm really pleased with it. But I'm hoping I can make more than just one piece this coming time, because I felt bad. I was like, I have only got one because I'm working with pen and ink, and it's going to take me a hot
Yeah.
minute to make something that feels like, you know what I mean.
But there's one of the, I think you're hitting on one of the really key elements of why multiverse is so great, is
Mhm.
because you do have an opportunity to go back the next year
Mhm.
and you've experienced stuff. And I always tell like one of the new, somebody who's brand new, who's going for the first time, experience all you can, but don't
Mhm.
worry about trying to schedule what you really want or want to do. Just experience
Mhm.
it, just soak it all in, because
Yeah.
that'll just, you'll just get the atmosphere and the experience. And then when you get that, like you said, you had to be on the charity art jam this year because you had such a great experience last year, and you just
Yeah.
let the experience have it. And now you're learning from that, and you get to expand and do more with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't know what you're gonna. So I learned this back with Dragon Con. It's like
Well, that's a
you
whole
make a
other
list
animal.
once the app comes out, and you have the whole schedule. You go ahead and you mark off all the cool things you want to do. Don't worry if they overlap. And then you see how you feel in the moment, or if you happen to be passing a place and they're saying something cool, you just slide in.
Yeah.
Um, it's just the planning is more of an idea, like a
Yeah.
guideline than like a firm plan. And so I'm the one that does all the Disney World planning for the family typically. So I'm just like, okay, it's not nearly that strict. You just show up and you'll find there's a million things to do, and it's so much fun.
Yeah. It, I do that too, and I agree with you. Dragon Con's a lot different though, because you don't have as much time to get from one. Sometimes you're going
Yeah.
from the Hilton
Oh
to the
yeah. But
Westin,
you
and
can't but you can't let that worry you. You
yeah,
know
no,
what I
no,
mean?
no.
You have to just you have
Yeah,
to
some
be
things you
zen
have to let
about it
go.
and just kind of let it go, because
Yeah.
if you get too pressed, then you're the only one that's stressed. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like
And the cool thing about multiverse is that they time it out so that you
oh
get a
yeah.
little extra space and
Oh
you're
god, the
in the same
timing. Yeah.
area, so it doesn't take very long to get to where you need to
Yeah,
go.
I'll
So,
say like being a panelist on Multiverse is like one of the smoothest experience that I've had as a panelist.
mhm.
I've been a panelist on a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
um, because I don't feel like the next people are ready to come in and it's cutting right at the time. And I gotta like, okay, thanks for being at the panel. I like you guys. Now get out. You know what I mean? Like, and then running to the next place and hoping I make it. Yeah, there's no
yeah,
mile long lines, Lynn.
yeah.
Exactly. Like
Yeah,
it's not.
and yeah, and for Dragon Con, what you learn very quickly, especially if you're going to something that's really huge, like
Oh god, just don't
I
go.
went to Catherine Tate this year, and we
uh,
waited in line for an hour. So
yeah,
that's an hour you don't get back, right? So
yeah.
you have to do that if you're going to go to something like that. And
Yeah, it's
so
more micromanaging,
yeah,
and I prefer to just I like the con experience where I of like just hanging out, catching up with friends and seeing cool stuff, and then
yeah,
sliding into some panels and seeing what's going on. I don't like to have to micromanage everything.
yeah.
We stopped going to Disney World for the same reason. Like I felt like it was work. And if it feels like vacation is work, that's not fun. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
uh,
multiverse is much more like cons like they used to be, like they should be, and I feel like I think that's part of the appeal, honestly.
I have a funny story about Disney World. The first time I went by myself for the most part, or actually I went with
Hmm.
people, but I was up and about before everybody else was, and it was
Hmm.
like 8 in the morning, and none of the rides are operational or anything like
Hmm.
that, so I couldn't do any of that. But so I walked around Epcot Center because that's the one place nobody wanted to go to,
Hmm.
and I found a German pub there that was open at
Oh
8 a.m.
yeah.
serving warm Guinness, and I was like, I'm there. And that was my best.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things to do at Disney World. So
No, like that's exactly it though. Like I like going to like the things like when I'm at Disney World, I like to go to the things that other people probably overlook,
yep,
but we used to be kind of like Disney people when we were growing up. So we went a lot, and you kind of just you find out the stuff that you like, and you find out where the good food is and where the bad food is.
Yeah.
And you're like, and we had the meal plan. And so it's like, okay, I have this amount of credits. I got to make sure that I use this. Am I going to use it for good food or bad food? I'm not going to use it for bad food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And I
it's that
contend
kind of thing.
and I contend that this year is probably the best year to go as a new person, because we're
Oh,
all going
yeah.
to be fairly new at this year, with a new
Yeah.
location and new experience, and there's new tracks, there's new things going on. So I think
Yeah. And like everyone's like getting used to the new location. So you're not going to feel weird because we're all lost. So I'm expecting to be lost. It's fine. I get lost very easily. So it'll be fine.
How long have you been drawing? How long have you been doing art? I would imagine it was probably embedded in you, huh? You
Well,
were.
let's see. I'm 45, so
I didn't mean that to
probably.
get your age. That was not my
No,
intention.
I just have to subtract. It's like it probably. I mean, as long as I've been able to hold like a crayon, like I've been doing this forever. My aunt is an artist, Kathleen Stafford. She's so funny story. My aunt is an artist, and she was one of the people. She and her husband were some of the people who were in the Iran Contra scandal. They were the hostages.
Oh, wow.
So she has a lot of artwork that she's done, and she gets to display it in like the Smithsonian and stuff like that. I am not that level of connected, and I don't want that level of trauma. So but I used to watch her do watercolors and work like that, and I found it really super inspiring. And one day she and I will sit in a studio and work together, but she lives over in Texas, or she's going out of the country, and we never see each other. But it would be fun one day to do that. So yeah, I've been inspired to do that for a long time. So,
And not to weigh this conversation down or anything, but I would imagine you have some opinions about AI as well, and what we're
oh
going
god,
through.
So
I'm
okay, so
about to
first
put
of
Kelly
all,
back on the soapbox, everybody. So
no. I mean, I keep stepping off, and you're like, here's another. And I'm like, okay, I'll take the bait. No, it's I don't like it because first of all, it's not really AI. It's just taking everybody else's stuff and making a terrible collage. I don't really find that like art or expressive or artificial intelligence. When I think artificial intelligence, I think like Data from Star Trek, and it's not trying to learn anything about humanity. It's just, vomiting up to us what, you input and what you want to hear. So there's that, I forget which company it was, but some company put in like, how can we increase our profits? And it said, the CEOs need to take a pay cut. And so they were like, well, let's tweak the AI because we don't like that answer. And it's, yeah, of course,
yeah.
it's all corporate greed. And I'm very much about art being a way of, yes, machine learning. Thank you. I very much am about this idea of art being a means of self-expression, and art being a means of expressing like emotional states, opinions on the world, and not just being something that just exists to be hung over like a toilet. It exists for like meaning. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I was a philosophy minor.
No, it's all right. I asked.
Art history was like a thing I spent a lot of time studying, and it was it's just one of those things where it's like you see where art has always been under attack and devalued.
Yeah.
And we only look at the value of it later.
Yeah.
Like people looked at Monet's work originally and said it was trash. People saw a Manet and were so angry at it that they smacked it with canes. They thought it was just the most disgusting, boring piece because everything is supposed to be religious and hyper realistic. And now we have AI, and I feel like because there's no person behind it, it shouldn't even be counted as something that's considered art. It's just not, saying that it's art is weird.
So I have two more questions on it, and then we'll get off of it. But
no, you're fine.
Are you able to tell right away that it's AI? Is that something with your eye you can do?
I think it would be arrogant of me to say that I can, because it's getting to the point where you can't immediately tell.
Hmm.
But the fact that it exists and is created by a machine instead of by compiling everyone else's work together, instead of coming from like a person who had an idea, whose idea was informed by their experience and all the other things that they've taken in over time, and they've percolated it in their brain and then created something. Even if it's just like a stick figure, that's more art than whatever AI can come up with. So yeah, honestly, memes are more art than AI can come up with. There's thought and effort put into those, and they make an impact.
So as a layman, as someone who doesn't have a trained art eye or history on it, is there something I can look for to know that it's AI? Do you?
Um, so one of the things that I do is a lot of people are like the fingers and all this stuff. What I try to do is find the artist behind it. So I look to see, okay, so who made this? And then I'll try to go to their website and I'll try to see like, okay, so what can I see in terms of like process videos? What does their workspace look like? Why did they get started doing this? And if you can only go back like a month and then all of a sudden they're creating this like highly textured, gorgeous piece, that's a dead giveaway. You
Yeah,
should be able to see progress and you should be able to see the human element in it. It's going to get to the point where the fingers are fixed.
yeah,
It's going to get to the point, yeah, Google image searches, yeah, but like it's going to get to the point where it's going to be too hard for us to fully distinguish, and I think it's frustrating. Just as similar to this, and as an aside, Quinny, she was an artist that did amazing beautiful work that was all over DeviantArt, but she died of cancer. And once DeviantArt decided that it was going to take all of its work and feed it into AI, her family cannot get into her account easily and go and mark everything as not able to be put into AI. So they literally took a lot of this dead woman's artwork that she'd made for decades and just put it all in and fed it into the AI machine. And I don't know, I feel like that's morally and ethically wrong to do
yeah.
that. They're not asking for permission, they're asking for forgiveness, and it's just, I don't know. At what point do we draw a line in terms of the morality of that? I
Yeah.
just, yeah,
So you're writing a novel right now.
yeah. God
It-
help me.
I'm curious if is there any part of your artistic creative brain that has helped you in this process of writing a
Mhm.
novel, or is it completely different muscles and you just utilize them differently?
So it's interesting to me because like it is very different. I actually have a master's in like writing and like I have a creative writing master's. My
Mm,
issue is that like I got super burned out after I did my grad thesis.
I can
My
imagine.
my yeah, well my two I did it on the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game as a community building resource.
Oh wow.
And use that to talk about how communities create their own in-group and out-group and their language built, just stuff like that. But my advisors were like, this would make a fantastic doctorate thesis and you should do this and get it to this point so you can do this. Madison was kind of, I was like working towards it, and then my ambition just died at some point and I was like,
Mm,
I just want to graduate. I've been trying to write this thing for like 4 years. Can I just graduate? And so went into teaching and that didn't help. So my writing journey has been more of a healing. I went into art as a way of healing from the trauma I
mm,
experienced when I was writing for other people
mm,
or editing for other people, which is basically a lot of what teaching writing
mhm,
is. You're teaching people how to construct and then edit their own work. And so my artwork has always been there, but I've always been a writer. Marlena and I used to write stories back and forth all the
yeah.
time. Um, and it's interesting because I can give her advice on stuff, but when I used to go and try to write something, I would become paralyzed because of the stress and the trauma from it. Um, and so I flew into my artwork instead. and it's been super nice to do that. But I've been trying to get myself back into writing, so I'm picking up. And the novel is pretty close to being finished. If we hadn't been moving this past year and a half, I would have probably had it done. But it's coming along, and it does use a different muscle, and I'm glad that it does, because like it's helping me get past this writer's block from like traumatic just exhaustion when it comes to it. And I think it's been very helpful to have using those two different parts of I don't want to say parts of the brain, 'cause that's not really accurate. It's more just like
different synapses.
Yeah, it's different types of creativity. I mean, it's all art, but it's just different ways of like expressing oneself and then digesting it, like it's just different. But yeah, it really has been helpful, because if I get too stressed out, I can go back to my painting, and that helps kind of just clear the head a little bit,
Yeah. So is short stories for you then a way to keep that creative brain part going a little bit, and an easy way to kind of still be writing?
Yeah. Because I used to write very prolifically, and then I just, had all this other stuff because I got into this super technical area. And so short stories are nice because they don't require me to do as much like building as a novel does.
Sure.
Because a novel is very similar to writing a graduate thesis, and it starts to, because it has all these little parts and pieces.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know.
yeah. And when you think about it, it's it's kind of understandable why it's the thing. But the short story writing keeps me like not away from writing. And the good thing about short stories is eventually like you can publish them separately, or you can collect them. You can do a lot of stuff, and anthologies are kind of a big deal in the horror world.
Yeah.
They don't do well in some genres, but they really do well with horror. So it's not that as odd as it would seem. So yeah.
Nice. How many pieces do you have ready to go for Multiverse right now?
Oh God, I'd have to count. I have them all like in a section of the wall, because a lot of them had to be wrapped up, and I've been unwrapping them and unpacking them.
Sorry,
I literally just moved in like 2 weeks ago, so I'm just like unpacking everything, making sure everything's fine. If anything got damaged, making sure it's touched up and fixed. And yeah, I think I probably have at least 15.
Wow,
so
nice.
It's just, once I get on a roll, it's pretty good. It's just staying on the roll and not being interrupted by this pesky life. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, because right now we don't have internet at the house. So that makes everything difficult, and so then I keep having to call the provider, and that stuff that eats away from my spoons for like doing other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think every creative deals with that.
Yeah, absolutely. How many pieces do you typically go home with? Do you pretty sell out at Multiverse, or do you have to take a few home? I mean, you don't have to tell me the exact number. I don't want to.
No, you're fine. I don't typically sell out. I'm kind of what I try to do is create just a wall of shock and awe,
which is a very great way to do it at Multiverse for sure.
I'm just always like, I'll bring as much stuff as possible, and surprise. And my goal is never to sell out. My goal is just to have like, here's a wall of my brain, enjoy, that kind of a thing. And maybe you'll find something you like, because I paint in so many different styles. It's all over the place.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to walk by there and take a look. I have set aside some money already this year. Last year I was like, I got to a point where I just spent too much money, and I had to cut myself off.
God, that's such a mood. The art show is so rough, because like I have stuff in the art show, and I'm like, okay, if something sells, then I can buy something. But then I always end up buying other stuff anyway. Like I'm just like, man, that's too pretty. I have to bid on it. You know what I mean? Like, of course, that's just what happens. But that's good, because it's artists supporting artists and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, and I want to support my fellow artists. I know so many of you, and I just really, but yeah, I've set aside a budget. So I'll walk by and I'll probably grab something. So I'm real excited
Thank
about
you.
that.
I hope I hope there's something over there that either shocks or awes.
I'll let you know.
Please do.
But thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you and
Thank
sit down
you.
with you and talk a little bit of something different that I don't get to talk to other artists about. So I'm really happy to do that. And
I'm always happy to talk art. I could probably talk that way longer than I should, but that's just how it is.
So
Because we live in our little hole for so long,
Yeah, absolutely. So tell everybody where they can find you and check out everything you're doing and get on the train so that you can get this novel when it comes out, everybody.
Yeah, you can find me at morbidsmile.com. And if you just Google Morbid Smile Art, you'll find me. If it says Kelly M. Frank, it's probably me. My name is pretty, common, so look for the 2 E's and look for the M. I do have a few short story collections out. One of them is the Slice Girls anthology. That's through Mocha Memoirs Press. I'm in that one. It is a very cool anthology. Evil women doing evil things. That's my pitch for it. And let's see. I also have Georgia Gothic out that I did with a number of people who are also multiversians. And the cover is by Lynn Hanson. And the interior art is by me. I have a short story and a poem in there. So yeah, pick up some stuff and see what you think.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kelly, for joining us, and I really appreciate it. And everybody, we have we have a brand new track this year at Multiverse that we want to tell you about, and we're going to do that right now. And then I'll be back to close out the show. So thanks, Kelly.
Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Calling all young adventurers. This year, Multiverse is thrilled to introduce a brand new programming track designed exclusively for our youngest attendees, the Adventure Track. We know conventions are already a blast for parents and adult fans, but this time we wanted to do a little something extra to make sure kids have just as much fun as the grown-ups. So the Adventure Track is a dedicated room with a weekend-long schedule of activities packed with excitement, creativity, and learning. We've crafted a variety of experiences that will keep the younglings entertained, engaged, and enchanted throughout the convention. From story read-alongs that transport them to far-off lands to art and crafting sessions where their imaginations can run wild, the Adventure Track offers something for every young explorer. And that's not all. Our Adventure Track also includes physical activities that will get the kids moving, laughing, and making new friends. Plus, with a selection of games that challenge their minds and spark their creativity, they'll have an unforgettable time. And leading all these thrills is none other than the amazing Ranger. An experienced elementary school teacher, Ranger brings years of experience in creating fun and safe, nurturing environments for children. At Multiverse, we believe that adventure is for everyone, especially the youngest members of our community. Get ready for another great weekend of fun for the whole family at the Multiverse Convention. You can find out more at multiversecon.org. Yes, I mean, I keep saying it each and every time we do this show, but, just another great reason. Hey, and look, if this was the moment when you said to yourself, well, I have kids, I can't just leave them behind to go frolic for a weekend, which I don't know why you wouldn't give that opportunity. But, even if you decided, that is the case, now you have no excuse because Multiverse can provide the opportunity for you to bring everybody, your whole family, to enjoy it. Young, old, adventurers alike. It's going to be awesome. I'm super excited to see this new track go into play and see how it goes. And I know that Jesse and Allison and Vanessa have been working so hard to bring this all to you and make this experience very family oriented. And I hope we did a little bit of that today on this show because this is something that is very important to the Multiverse aspect of why I love this convention and why I attend it. It is because it's become part of my family. It is such a beautiful thing. And you get that vibe from it right away. And I think that this just gives it another continuation and another opportunity down the road for people who have a whole family that they want to bring along. So everybody check out Multiverse, and thank you for joining us again. We'll be back on Friday with another episode of Spotlight on the Multiverse. We've got a lot of shows going on throughout the week here at Go Indie Now. Please like, subscribe, do all the wonderful things you do. And remember that it's always time to go indie now. We'll see you again soon, everybody. Bye.